How many guitars do you need to be happy? Just another one. Yeah, we all know this old joke. And some of us even had to deal with his girlfriend who was pissed off that you spent another $2,000 on new guitar instead of that vacation with her she was always dreaming of. And we all know how to deal with her questions like, are those 20 guitars of yours not enough for you? Well, yeah, but this guitar is totally different. This is a neck-through model. Well, when the neck goes through the body, it increases the sustain. Yes, it is totally different. Yeah, but this one has got Semi-Duncans in it. Well, the pickups from the Semi-Duncan, the pickup manufacturer. Well, they are not the demarters that I have in my guitars. Well, they have kind of unique sound. Yeah, but this is a vintage Strat reissue. Well, this has this 70s Stratocaster vibe in it. Well, you know, this glassy sound, this bluesy. What do you mean you don't hear the difference? Well, because you don't know. Well, yeah, but this one has fan frets. You know, the frets are not parallel like on my other guitars. What do you mean, what is good for? Multiscale? You know, tighter low strings? You don't hear the difference? But there is a difference. No, it doesn't look ugly. Yeah, but this is a hollow body guitar. Yes, hollow body, not like a solid body guitars that I have. Yeah, and it sounds differently, like jazzy, sort of mellow sound. What do you mean you don't hear the difference? Well, because you don't have any idea of guitars. If you lie to your girlfriend, this is your personal issue. But if you lie to yourself, this is much worse. I don't want to say that buying a new guitar is a bad thing. If you desperately want this particular guitar, and you have enough money, you have enough space in your room, and you can handle your girlfriend, go ahead and buy one if it makes you happy. I'm totally fine with it. I just want you to be honest to yourself. Do you really need another guitar, or you just want one and it makes you happy? I'm talking about some pragmatical things. For example, a lot of us are semi-professional musicians who need different types of guitar for different purposes, just as our working tools. Good example is this live DVD of Eric Clapton that is called This Song for George. During this show, Eric Clapton used a bunch of guitars for different purposes. Some songs were played acoustically, some songs were played with electric guitars, and there was one track, The Reptile, that was from his latest album back then. And this was played with a hollow body guitar. And it's got this jazzy mellow sound. So the question is, do you really need this hollow body guitar in your collection? Let's take a look at the one that I got from Johny. This guitar was made by Marathon, a brand that I never heard before, and I assume that this is some kind of low-budget Asian-made guitar. However, I had less problems making this guitar ready for the studio than another two Johny's guitars. Basically, it involved cleaning it with Dunlop 65 and some lemon oil for fingerboard. The hardest part was cleaning the metal hardware. They were all sticky and rusty. Dunlop 65 couldn't handle it. For metal hardware, I used electrical contact cleaner that is supposed to remove all the dirt and rust. Well, all the metal hardware are still kind of rusty, but at least they're not sticky. This guitar had scratchy potentiometers and input jack, and cleaning it was a little bit challenging. I could get to some of the potentiometers through the F-hole at this guitar, but some of those were too far from the F-hole. So I had to remove this feedback plate to get to these potentiometers. While cleaning, I discovered that tone controls are the push-pull potentiometers. And by pulling it, you can split the coils. And I wish more guitars would come up with solutions like this. After all controls were cleaned, I got rid of scratchy sound. The hardest part was fixing the input jack because I couldn't get to it. In order to do this, I put the old string through input jack and fished it out through the F hole. The old string served as a guideline, so I was able to unscrew the input jack and get it from the guitar. After cleaning and fixing it, I did the opposite thing. And then it was time to put in new strings. The old ones were completely rusty. Putting in new strings on this guitar is a lot of fun. You literally attach it or hang it to a string holder. These are some unknown closed gear tuners and they work pretty fine. The one thing they did is put the string on the tuner so it locks itself. After you feed it through the hole in tuner's axis, you put the end of the string underneath the string itself and make it the way that the string catches itself when the tension is increased. Basically, you don't need the multiple windings around the tuner's axis and the guitar stays in tune. The hollow body guitar was one of the first electric guitars that appeared on the market. Back in 1930s, jazz music was a huge thing, but guitar was too quiet to compete or to keep up with the volume in jazz orchestras. And people were searching for a solution how to make guitar loud. And when magnetic pickups were invented, they were simply attached to one of the popular models back then, to this kind of arc top with F-holes similar to the violin, and the first electric guitar was invented. Of course, because a lot of jazz musicians played this kind of guitar, we still have a name for this guitar as jazz model. But if you take a look at some of the footage of Elvis Presley performing live, you see that the guitar players that played with Elvis Presley used this kind of guitar, and even early Beatles used this kind of guitar. So they are not quite jazz musicians. I used to call this kind of guitar semi-acoustic because you could actually play it acoustically, or you could plug it to an amp and play it as electric guitar. But ever since a lot of acoustic guitars got piezo pickups, and this got kind of confusing. So I was asking myself, can you play this guitar acoustically? So to answer this question, I actually made one test. I compared these two guitars with the one that was made as a hollow body electric guitar, and another one was made as a pure acoustic instrument. So I played it acoustically and picked it with a microphone. So let's take a listen. Well, I can say that this guitar has nice acoustic qualities, so using it as an acoustic guitar only isn't an option for me. But what's about its electrical part? Is then different than the one that solid body has? Basically no. We get it here pretty much the same pickups and pretty much the same circuit. So what's the difference between those two guitars? To answer this question, we have to look at the history of electric guitar once again. Back in those days, the big issue with the hollow body guitars was feedback. Basically, if guitar is connected to the amplifier and the amplifier creates some kind of sound that gets into the body of the electric guitar. It creates vibration that is amplified over and over again until you get nothing but this awful noise that we all hate. To eliminate this kind of noise, there were two options. First of all, people attached this plate that covered a part of the F-hole so that feedback wasn't as huge as it used to be. And another option was making semi-hollow body guitar. Basically, this is guitar with much thinner body. The most popular model is still the Gibson ES 335, really nice guitar. And of course, when the solid body guitar was introduced, a lot of people switched to the solid body guitar, and hollow body guitar is barely used today. Maybe you see it once in a while with jazz musician, but today electric guitar mostly is solid body. And so, what's the difference between those two guitars? I searched for this kind of answer on the guitar forums about 15 years ago, and basically what I learned there was that hollow body guitar has this huge resonance body, and the energy of vibrating strings is transmitted to this body, and that's why the string loses a part of its energy, and it has some kind of mellow attack, and it has less sustain. And that's why this guitar gets this kind of mellow sound. And solid body guitar is nothing but a piece of wood, so you don't have this energy loss because you don't have to bring this body to vibrating. And string keeps its energy, and it has got more sustain, much harder attack, and so on. And semi-hollow body was something in between. So, after I read this kind of information, I thought, well, okay, I definitely need one hollow body and one semi-hollow body in my collection, just as an option for different types of sound. And about 10 years ago, I ordered one semi-hollow body guitar. I've got a lot of anticipation while I was waiting for delivery, but after I got this guitar, I figured out that it sounded pretty much as my solid body Ibanez RG1570. So I went online once again, and I was trying to figure out why this wasn't the result that I've expected. And some of the luthiers in YouTube claimed that to create a good sound in hollow body guitar, you have to have some kind of special skills, because either the whole construction is kind of weak and it falls under tension of the strings, so you have to involve a lot of work in order to make this kind of hollow body guitar, or even semi-hollow body guitar. And the one that I purchased was a low budget guitar. And with low budget guitar, nobody wants to make a lot of work with it, so basically they glue it so hard that it doesn't resonate at all. So basically what you get is another solid body guitar with F-holes. After I read this kind of information, I figured out that I have to spend a lot of money on some kind of Gibson guitars in order to get this hollow body or semi-hollow body sound. And this was pretty much money. And several months after that, I tried a bunch of different hollow body guitars in several guitar stores, trying to figure out the price point where I can get a pretty much decent hollow body guitar without paying too much money. And I saw an interesting thing. Some of the hollow body guitars in the higher price range did sound pretty much like a solid body guitars. And another one that weren't as pricey did sound like a hollow body guitar, with this kind of mellow sound that you expect from the hollow body guitar. And what was the difference between those two? One thing that I saw, the one that did sound like a solid body guitar had pretty standard pneumatic bridge, the one that you get on the Gibson Les Paul guitars or some other solid body guitars. And the one that did have mellow sound had a wooden bridge, and this might affect how the string vibrates. But another thing that I noticed, the one that did had this kind of mellow sound had flat wound strings on it, instead of round wound that had the ones that did sound like a solid body guitar. So I did the same test with this guitar. I tried out the round wound strings versus flat wound strings. Unfortunately, I didn't capture this on camera, but I do have sound samples. And as you can hear, we've got pretty much a solid body guitar sound with the round wound strings. So I have a big question. How much of the influence does this hollow body has on the overall sound of the guitar? And of course, whether the theory about low budget guitar or some pricey guitar is true, if the hollow body from a higher price range are at some point better because the luthiers know some secrets to make it sound as a hollow body guitar. And to investigate this, I probably need some kind of pricey guitar, not quite a Gibson Super 400, but here is the deal. If this video at some point hits 20,000 views, I'll try to get some decent hollow body guitar and make a bunch of tests whether this is a theory or if you can get pretty much hollow body guitar sound if you put some flat wound strings on a solid body guitar. And in conclusion, I made this guitar ready for recording session for Shitty Guitar Challenge. If you don't know what this is all about, I'll put some link in the description below so you can check this for yourself. But basically, I'm trying to make decent recording with some low budget guitar that served as a wall decoration for several years. And so, this guitar has kind of nice sound with the flat wound strings. So stay tuned for the news, be safe, Merry Christmas, and keep on rocking.